In this session, we are briefly going to present the topics regarding structure of economic evaluation, different types of economic evaluation, and their usefulness and limitations. To get a better understanding, you need to read the literature. What does economic evaluation mean? It's a discipline dealing with both inputs and outputs. It's also a discipline concerning itself with choices. The definition therefore becomes: economic evaluation is the comparative analysis of alternative courses of action in terms of both their costs and consequences. Where is economic evaluation applied? It can be applied at different levels. It can be applied at the national level, for example at ministries of health and finance, to allocate budgets across competing needs. It can also be used at the global level to inform funding of interventions and funding of research, and generally to guide policy. So it's a tool to aid priority setting in healthcare. We can ask, is a procedure worth doing? For example, the treatment of AIDS. Well, is it worth doing? Well, of course it is. The problem is, it's the wrong question. There is no counterfactual here. The correct question is, should we treat AIDS rather than something else? Problem is, we have too little funds to do all we need, all we want to do. So whenever we choose to do something, we are choosing to not do something else. So the real question is, should we do AIDS treatment, or should we instead do malaria management or essential childhood intervention? And now I'm not so sure anymore, and we need to do a more formal assessment, for example using an economic evaluation. There are different types of economic evaluation. The simplest is cost minimization, and we use money to measure the costs. We assume that consequences are identical, and we perform no valuation of the consequences. Cost consequence. We can you have different types of consequences considered. There can be clinical consequences, health or non-health consequences. We can have a number of them, but we just list the different consequences separately without any valuation. We don't add them together. With the cost effectiveness analysis, we can measure single clinical consequences or health effects. So there's no valuation other than the number of the clinical or health effect. We can only have one clinical or health effect in the same analysis. Cost utility, we can have single effects or multiple effects, and we can value them using the so-called DALYs or QALYs, the disability adjusted life years or quality adjusted life years. Don't worry about these terms, we will discuss them more thoroughly later in this course. But we can have several effects at the same time, and we can add them together because of this valuation. The last technique is cost-benefit, where both the costs and the consequences are measured and valued using monetary terms. When we do this, it allows us to do allocative decisions, which is deciding whether we should send resources to the healthcare sector, or for example to the educational sector, or maybe for infrastructure, road construction, etc. That's allocative decisions. The other techniques are mostly about technical efficiency, deciding where to use money within healthcare.